Ugh.
I like how my beer sounds all widgety.
Because it's a widget beer?
Yeah. Good old nitro stuff. Alright, welcome to Drink to the Past, the only podcast on the internet where I introduce it with a stupid subtitle of the only podcast where blank every week.
The only podcast where blank every week. How is blank, anyway?
Don't you worry about blank, let me worry about Planet Express.
That was a Futurama quote.
Yeah, you're welcome for that. That's what you were hoping for, wasn't it?
I suppose.
Alright, and here we are. I might have accidentally just had a small tab open where my window was with the thing that I closed, so if you saw that behind-the-scenes image on YouTube, then we're very sorry for your inconvenience. Anyways, my name is Sean Michael Patrick Thompson. As always, I'm your host of Drink to the Past, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris. Doesn't have a cool lightsaber desk lamp like me, Audette.
Hi, I'm Chris. Nihilist Arby's is a thing, Audette. Glad to be back on the show.
So, are we boycotting beef and cheddars or something?
No, it's just Nihilist Arby's is a Twitter account, apparently.
Cool. Good for them.
And
Good for them. Everybody's got to follow their dreams and make weird Twitter accounts, right? I'll drink to that. So, Chris, what you drinking?
I am drinking what the fuck is this? An Odell Brewing Co. Cryo IPA. It's like a regular IPA, but with the volume turned down.
Huh. Is that a good thing?
It's like a hint of it's like an IPA but mild, as weird as that sounds.
Huh.
Like, so it's still got, like, flavor, but
right.
It's, much less, flavorful. Much less bitter. Much less hoppy.
Okay. I had a hop tea earlier today. It was pretty good. I like those. I don't know if you've had them. They're a new brand of tea that brews all their tea with hops, which is kind of interesting. It gives a really unique flavors.
That sounds very interesting.
Yeah. I like tea anyway pretty well. This one I had was spruce tip tea with the hops in there, so it was that was pretty tasty. All right, shall we get into what you playing?
Sure.
All right, so Chris, what you playing?
Well, other than the obvious, Minecraft. I've been playing a lot of
If
Dota 2.
Minecraft wasn't obvious, you can check out our YouTube version for special streaming content and stuff of Minecraft in the podcast. Video footage, woo.
I also have continued to play Stellaris, and I recently picked up a game that has had some interesting mixed reviews and started playing that, Carrion, where you play you're the Thing from The Thing. You go around killing and
from The Thing, not from the Fantastic Four.
No, not that Thing.
Not that Thing.
The
other thing.
Like that Thing is like he's a cool guy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not opposed to that Thing.
Yeah, well,
I don't mean to objectify him by saying that Thing.
Right. I've got something related to what you are often drinking. Is a left-hand nitro beer, but it is not the milk stout, which is obviously kind of their biggest beer, but the left-hand Flamingo Dreams Nitro, which is a berry blonde ale. It's mildly tart. It's not enough to where I would call it a sour, but it's just enough to give it like this interesting kind of flavor there. So that's actually pretty good. I don't like sours a lot, and I don't like blondes a ton, but sometimes, like, on either one, like, if they're just some weird fruity thing, then sometimes I'm like, yeah, alright, that's alright. And this is kind of a little bit of a blonde, a little bit of a sour, and a little bit of mostly some raspberries. So yeah, that's pretty good, because it's, I think it said raspberries, right? Yeah. Raspberries and black currant. So, Yeah, kind of a fruity little tart thing. Not too bad. Got my special wooden mug here. Everything's cooler out of a wooden mug, right?
Possibly.
All right.
I would. I like my glass mugs, but
I mean, either way, as long as there's beer, right?
as long as there's beer. Yeah.
Yeah. So myself, I have been playing a little bit more on Xbox Game Pass. So I started Final Fantasy 15, and the intro of that game was so bad that I just gave up and played Breath of the Wild.
Wow, really?
Yeah, which is weird, because, I keep hearing good things about Final Fantasy 15 lately, so I figured I'd give it a shot, but the intro is just so bad. For just as many reasons as it can possibly be bad, somehow it manages to, stack all of these possible bad intro things together into one ginormously terrible intro. And I was like, I want to go back to it, and I'm still probably going to go back to it, but it'll be a little tricky. Because it did a lot of things that I just was not on board with. So right out of the gate, you start up the game, and it's okay, so do you want to go into the game, or do you want to start the tutorial? And I'm like, okay, well, I haven't played the game, so I guess the tutorial is a good idea. And the tutorial is in two segments, basically. You can either go for over here is the combat tutorial, and over here is the story and lore dump area. And you're just like, okay, why is there a story and lore dump area in this alternate tutorial thing instead of just, telling me that through the story? Right? That's weird, first of all. And then you go into the story lore dump area, and it's literally just an empty room with 4 tapestries, and if you push A next to the tapestry, it will tell you part of the lore of the world. And you're like, okay, why didn't you just do that in a cutscene or something? That was so randomly distributed. There's no reason to distribute it that way. It's okay, I would be okay with a lore dump segment if you had done it differently. Even if you did, 4 posters that you click on to read about the lore, you could have, integrated that into the opening area of the game or something. Like they did in, Link Between Worlds. That's literally what they did. When you first go to Hyrule Castle, there's 4 or 5 little posters that are hey, this is stuff that happened in the past. There was Ganon, and bad stuff, and Triforce, and all that. And you're like, okay, sweet, I got it. So, it's why would you choose to make an entire extra mode for that is completely beyond me. And then you go into the game, and it's there's fire everywhere, and there's a monster, and it beats you up, and it's really confusing. And then it's okay, this is what happened before that. And you're like, okay, so why was I there? Why did you show me this random glimpse that I had no idea what was even going on other than fire? And then put me back before whatever just happened.
World builders got a world build, I guess, and in this case, by world build, I mean bore the player with uninteresting lore details before they become plot relevant.
Right, yeah. And, yeah, so I'm like, okay, that might be interesting to see how I get there, I guess, but by the time I actually get there, I feel like I'm going to forget that this part was at the start anyway. So, why was it there? And then and then you go into this area, and it's okay, here we're gonna vaguely introduce the main character is Prince Noctis. You're this prince of this land that's getting invaded by this other land, and there's this tertiary land that you're engaged to the princess of that place, so you have to go there and marry her so that you can tie your countries together, and something about that will make it okay to fight the bad guys. And it's like, okay, I'm kind of on board with that, except for the bad guys are put out to be this, like, unstoppable force that is literally attacking every border of your country constantly, to the point where, like, the king has a magic ring that enshrouds the entire country in a barrier, and it causes great physical strain to himself to constantly hold up this barrier, and if he even drops it for a second, then the bad guy country will invade and kill everybody, but you're supposed to go outside of this country and marry somebody from a third country? It's like, what is stopping the bad guy country from just, like, they're at the border, right, theoretically? So, like, why don't they just guard all the exits, and then when Noctis goes out, they just fucking murder him? So, that didn't make sense. That's, like, a weird, kind of a way to go. And then your car breaks down halfway there, and you never even get there, and it's like, okay, now you have to go on a side quest to fix your car, and then it introduced, like, a skill tree thing and said your first quest is to go kill 3 of these things. And I was like, okay, your first quest is to kill 3 blank. I hate those quests because I played WoW for several years and I'm fucking over them. And then you introduce a skill tree, which I've talked, like, my mild gripes about skill trees in general. Like, they can be okay when they're implemented well, but this this isn't just a skill tree. This is like, you have 10 points to spend in these 8 skill webs. I'm like, what the fuck? How do I even process this? So I, like, looked through each one of these to see how many points I need, how many points I have, and I'm just like, okay. And I picked my skill, and I was like, I am fucking exhausted by this game. I'm playing Breath of the Wild.
I will say, in the game's defense, it is an RPG. It's, like, the one place it's acceptable to have skill trees like that.
Right.
Anymore.
But it's just so much all at once, because it's especially weird, because, like, a lot of people that I've been hearing saying good things about Final Fantasy 15 are saying, oh, it's very similar to Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Final Fantasy 7 Remake had a little skill tree it's not even a skill tree. It's like, you have 5 skills that you can pick from, and you pick one of them, and then when you level up a little more, you can pick 2 or 3 or 4, and then if you level up, like, a whole bunch, you'll get another 5 skills that you can do. So it only gives you a little chunk at a time for each character, instead of saying, here's 10 points, you can use them somehow on one of your character's abilities, or one of these other abilities that might affect all characters, but there's just so much to see all at once is thrown at you, and it's really kind of like, what do I even do with this? And I spent like 20 minutes just looking at these skill webs to try and decide what to do, and it just was, like, mentally exhausting. I was like, why?
And also, in terms of, like, not just mentally exhausting from the skill tree aspect, but Final Fantasy VII doesn't lore dump you. It just starts you in the middle of things, and you pick up stuff as the game, like, introduces it, like, bits and pieces wise.
Yeah, I feel like that's the correct way to RPG, is to, like, maybe you'll have a lore dump every now and then, maybe even have one at the start of the game, that's fine, but, like, having an extra separate lore dump area in the tutorial for no reason is really weird.
Yeah. And, yeah, lore dump is not, it's bad storytelling. I don't, like, I don't even write that much in the way of stories, and I know that's bad storytelling. How am I supposed to tell video game developers that that's bad storytelling, and it's bad game design?
Right. Yeah, so then I played a lot of Breath of the Wild, actually. Like, I was like, okay, I'm going to take a break, I'm going to play Breath of the Wild, and then I ended up, like, playing for, like, 2 hours, and I was like, oh shit, I just played Breath of the Wild for 2 hours. And then I came back to it the next day, and I played another 2 hours, I was like, yes, I just played for 2 hours, I fucking love this game.
In defense of Breath of the Wild's still, like, fairly fucking good.
Yes, it is. Alright, and other Whatcha Playin things that I did, as I said, I've been on Xbox Game Pass, and one of the things that they recently released, is the ability to stream games to your phone. which is cool. So the trial of that was like not very much. It was like $1 for the first month trial again, which is how they got me on the Xbox for PC thing anyways. So I was like, okay, sure, I'll give them another $1 to try, playing these games on my phone. Why not? And so one of the funniest things that caught my eye was the Turing test, which you might remember I played on Google Stadia. And did not have a good time at all. So, I was actually pretty impressed by this. Like, it ran playably well on my phone.
Huh.
And I thought it was really cool. The input lag was almost negligible. It was enough to where, like, every game feels a little off, but not enough to, like, make it unplayable. So I didn't play a lot on my time here. I will hopefully play a little more, in the next coming week or whatever. But I definitely had an interesting time with the Turing test, and I also played a little bit of Halo ODST, which is kind of cool because also that's not currently available on the PC version of Xbox Game Pass. Because the Master Chief Collection on PC hasn't got that port yet. So that's kind of an interesting thing, that you can play some of these games on your phone now that you cannot yet play on PC. So I just thought that was kind of cool. And I was just impressed that I was able to play Halo ODST, I went from, the Turing test isn't high-octane stuff happening all the time game, so I figured I'd try ODST. And I didn't get any like, really hard areas or anything, but it still, like, pretty much just played pretty well. So I was like, I'll take that. It's pretty cool. And, of course, just coming out today is Mario 3D All-Stars. You picking that up, Chris?
Ooh, I had not heard anything about that because I get most of my gaming news from this channel and react to it.
Aha. Yeah, we talked about that in the Mario Direct 1 or 2 weeks ago. It was announced, so it is now available. So if you want a physical copy, I'd definitely try and lock that down now, because physical copies are going to be limited. They're only going to be available till March, and apparently digital copies are also only going to be available till March, which is just weird as shit.
I have some other things I am looking for physical copies of before I would pick up a physical copy of this, but I'm the remake, the All-Stars, I'm definitely gonna at least pick it up.
Yeah, so it comes with Super Mario 64, Super Mario Galaxy, and Super Mario Sunshine, so I didn't play a ton of it. I played a little bit of Super Mario 64, which I still feel like is really, really clunky. I wish they'd done a little bit more to make this a bit more playable, and it's still not, like, terrible, but it's just, it feels really dated, and I feel like on a Switch remake, they could have just, like, fixed everything that, modernized it a little,
Yeah, I don't think you or I are the target audience of Super Mario 64.
Yeah, that's true.
Given,
because I liked Super Mario 64 when I was a kid, but I didn't play it a ton. I rented it from the game store a lot, or the video store, and that was like all of my experience with it.
I think there's something different about the brains of, like, Zelda fans and, like, the kind of games.
Right.
And, like, did you like Banjo and Kazooie that much?
I didn't play a lot of that either. I played that at a buddy's house, and I used to play that. They had an N64 big-ass console kiosk at the old McDonald's that I used to go to, and that was where I played most of my Banjo-Kazooie, but I didn't play a lot of that either, but I remember liking it okay, but not, like, a ton.
Yeah, so I feel similarly about Banjo-Kazooie and Mario 64, and I think it's just these 3D collectathon platformers, it was like I remember having some fun with them, but they were never like my game of choice.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like it's weird because as such a huge Ocarina of Time fan as I am, I will go back and replay Ocarina of Time on a yearly basis on 3DS or GameCube, and I feel like those versions of Ocarina of Time are more worth my time than even this fancy remade version of Super Mario 64. Because, Ocarina of Time, even 23, 24 years ago, let's see, when was that? 97, right? 98? Yes, anyways, 22, 23 years ago, Ocarina of Time had the significantly better camera controls. Like, the camera I am fighting constantly in Super Mario 64, and I'm just like, why didn't you just give me a full 360 view in the remake? I don't understand why we couldn't do that with modern hardware. I kind of understand there was more limited hardware back in the day, but Ocarina of Time, with their centering mechanic, just with you push Z and it centers the camera, at least worked around that to the extent where you could control the camera enough to where it was never a big issue. But now, this is constantly an issue, even in a remake with twin sticks. And I'm like, why does that have to be a thing?
Yeah, that's kind of...
I kind of get it for, preserving the original feel of the game, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, the original feel of the game was not as good as the original feel of Ocarina of Time. Fix it.
I feel like, well, we're both biased, obviously.
Yeah, that's fair.
Both, we're Zelda fans primarily, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And Mario it's not like we don't like Mario. It's just
right.
It's just not Zelda. So, I feel like some of that, they may be keeping some of that to appeal to the people who really love Mario 64, who think it's one of the greatest games of all time.
Yeah, because certainly there's plenty of those. I'm hearing people talk about Mario 64 like it's Ocarina of Time all the time. If not better than Ocarina of Time in some people's minds. So certainly there's, a little bit of bias, a little bit of, everybody has a different, tastes and all that. So I'm not, mad that it's the way it is, but it's I feel like they could have done just a tiny bit more to modernize it and really make it more presentable to a modern audience.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. It's not, terrible. I also played a little bit of Mario Sunshine, and I'm really not sure what to make of that game yet, because I've, squirted 2 sludge-built piranha plants, and that's, all I've done. We are joined
by a wild Nicholas.
Oh. Yeah.
So, I think Super Mario Sunshine is when the Super Mario games actually really started to take off for me.
I never played it originally.
The 3D ones. Mm-hmm. So that's I actually prefer that one over 64. So.
Right. And of course, it's also got Super Mario Galaxy, which from the mechanical perspective, just to me looks the most interesting with all the crazy-ass gravity wells and shit. That just looks pretty fun. So I feel like I'm more excited to get into that, but I figured I'd, give these other ones that I never really gave a fair chance. Although I never gave Mario Galaxy a fair chance either. So, I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyways, shall we get into our news and booze?
Certainly.
All right.
Unless Nick wants to talk about what he's been playing recently.
Nick, what you playing?
Chris sort of convinced me on accident to play Stellaris, and it's messy.
Messy,
That is true.
Messy. You go in and you try to learn, and you're like, I've played games before, and you're like, okay, there's 100 buttons, which is fine, but I was an idiot and I played it in a multiplayer setting on the fast speed. And when there's pop-ups constantly happening and you don't have the power to pause the damn thing, it's like a
Yeah.
drowning simulator in space.
Nice.
Yeah, that sounds about accurate. that meshes well with my first experience of the game, and I think a lot of other people's first experience with that game.
Ooh, that sounded like a beer opening.
That was really loud.
Is it a beer?
Indeed. Carry on with the news and booze.
All right, well, news and booze anyways. So first piece of news and booze we already went over a little bit is Halo 3 ODST is coming to PC September 22nd. We didn't really go over that, but we kind of talked about ODST is now on mobile if you have Xbox Game Pass. So that's kind of interesting, again, that it's just there on mobile before it's coming. But anyways, I'm excited about this. ODST has literally the best firefight in any video game ever. Super fun. And it's really just a...
Best firefight?
Yeah. I think so.
How do you mean? I've never played it.
I don't know, it's just a really fun mode, because back in the day I used to do a ton of these kind of things with my brothers on co-op, where we'd have our, four-man team split screen back, on original Xbox and some on 360, where you could actually do four-player split screen. And in these kind of modes, it's like you versus an infinite number of, never-ending enemies. And so it's... Yeah, I always thought it was a lot of fun just to kind of, work together and see how long you can last. So this one was one that we played a whole ton. We used to play some of the old Ghost Recons, had these kind of modes, and some of the old Gears of War. They probably still have it in Gears of War. We played a lot of Gears of War 2 and 3. I think had good... I think they called it Horde mode, but it's the same thing. It's firefight mode, Horde mode, or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, I always thought that was a ton of fun. Alright, as long as we're in the news and booze, let's rate these beers. Chris, what'd you rate that beer?
The cryo is always, I'm like, 13? Like I said, it's like an IPA, but, a bit muted.
Less IPA-y.
Yeah, so it's obviously not a bad thing. I like my IPAs. Yeah. I like stronger IPAs, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Or I like IPAs that taste more like IPAs than not.
This Flamingo Dreams would definitely be a really good, just hot summer night relaxing beer. I say that about a lot of beers, but that's, there's a lot of beers.
Hot summer night relaxing beer.
Yeah.
Sounds like an advertising campaign.
Hot summer night relaxing beer. It's so relaxing, you could have it on a hot summer night.
It is still technically summer, so,
Yeah, so yeah, definitely a time and place for this. Just enough tartness to make it interesting without just being like, look, I'm a sour because sours are popular.
I like sours. Sours are popular.
Was anyone the target of that particular remark?
There's a brewery down the road from where I used to live that just makes like shitloads of sours, and every time I go there I order their guest taps because I'm just like, I don't want 12 sours, I want a fucking stout.
Oh,
I'm sure your sours are wonderful, but I don't want 12 sours. Why do you have this many? Why do you have nothing else?
Sours are most certainly sometimes food.
Yeah.
Sometimes food.
Mm-hmm. Nick, what you drinking?
Just a Coors Banquet.
All right. What do you rate that on a scale of 3 to 17?
It's good, but I had to pay for it, so 10.
All right. This one I'm gonna I'm gonna give this a 12. It's nice. Good for a sour-ish thing. Next piece of news and booze. Doom 64 is getting a physical release from Limited Run Games on Switch and PS4. The Switch version will have a special edition, which includes a commemorative metal Nintendo 64 cartridge. Which is just fucking cool. I'm just like, can I just order the cartridge? I already have the game digitally, and I'm not like that into it that I want.
64?
No, it doesn't. Limited Run has sometimes made limited runs of actual Nintendo 64 cartridges and stuff like that. Currently, they actually still have up. You can pre-order Shantae for Game Boy Color. They're actually doing a Game Boy Color release.
Are you serious?
Yeah, you can.
I might go out and order that tonight.
Yeah, it's on right now. So as soon as payday comes around, I was thinking of doing that because playing the original Shantae, I believe Shantae and Shantae Risky's Revenge both are available for Game Boy Color, but I could be wrong. So check out Limited Run Games official website for all the details. But there's also different special editions that come with, you know, all sorts of crazy stuff because that's what Limited Run Games does. But yeah, this Doom 64 one I thought was really cool because I'm just a huge Doom guy. 64 is not my favorite Doom, but it's a really fun one, and if I didn't own it, I would probably be all over this. But right now, I'm just like, all I want is the metal cartridge. Because it's fucking cool.
There's always overpriced after retail on eBay.
Yep. That's how that works. Alright. And then we have a couple of bigger ones to go through here. So, 2 days ago, there was a Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase, which actually had a very good reception, because these mini partner showcases that they've been doing have generally been not very well received. People are just like, okay, you showed us a bunch of stuff, but nobody cares. But these ones actually had some higher octane announcements. So the first two announcements were both Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter Rise is the newest Monster Hunter game, coming March 26th, 2021. Looks actually kind of interesting, because it's Monster Hunter, and in addition, you can climb anywhere, like in Breath of the Wild, is what it looks like. It's like, what? That's pretty cool. And Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin, is coming out summer 2021. So, both of those look kind of interesting. I'm not a huge Monster Hunter guy, but they look cool. I might pick up one of them or something. I don't know. I haven't decided, because I've always like eyed Monster Hunter from the side. I've tried a couple of them and not really got into them, so maybe I'll get them. You guys into Monster Hunter?
Monster Hunter has been. I think my experience with it is very similar to yours, where I've looked at it, I'm like, okay, that looks kind of cool, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I've just never got into it. Seems like it takes a lot. It's a very effortful game to get into.
Yeah, from the ones that I've played, I played a little bit of one on Wii. I think was Monster Hunter Try.
Yeah.
And it was okay, but it certainly had a learning curve. And I played the demo of one of the Monster Hunter... I forget which this one was called, but it was the demo for it on Wii U. And I played it, and it really definitely had a learning curve, even just in the demo. It kind of gave you an idea of what was going on in the demo, and it didn't, like, leave you totally screwed because you didn't have the time to invest to really learn the game. But it still was just like, yeah, I'm not sure I want to get into this. But some of the other more modern Monster Hunters seem to be... Like, Monster Hunter World is reviewed for... well, for not doing that quite as bad and being a little friendlier to newer incoming people to the series and stuff like that. And these ones, I guess Monster Hunter Stories is a little bit of a spin-off, so Stories 2 might be more in my wheelhouse. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll check them out. Maybe one of them. I think they look interesting, at least, so... pretty cool to see that. Fitness Boxing 2 Rhythm and Exercise is coming out December 4th, and I feel like it's going to do, like, okay sales because it's the kind of thing that people buying Switches for, like, their grandchildren will be like, ooh, they can work out with their video games and things. But I feel like it's just going to do total shit sales in comparison to Ring Fit Adventure. Because as a Nintendo-published thing, I feel like Ring Fit Adventure is going to get a lot more hype, a lot more, like... Attention, yeah. Although, it might not do quite as bad, because Ring Fit Adventure is also, like, $80 with a peripheral, whereas this you can buy in for just the regular price, I assume, and play it with just the hardware. You don't need an extra peripheral. You just, shake the Joy-Cons and shit. So... I never played a fitness boxing game. Apparently there was one before.
A low-income fitness game.
Chris, you're going to jizz your pants over this. Disgaea 6, Defiance of Destiny, coming summer 2021 as a Nintendo Switch exclusive.
Sean, I'm going to stop you right there. I've already came.
Nice. Yeah, so I thought this was interesting, and I thought it was awesome that they said in the trailer that damage numbers are now going into the quadrillions, and the max level is like almost 100 million. I'm just like, that is so Disgaea. I don't even know much about Disgaea, but I know that, and this is pretty cool.
So, do you not, when you like play one game and you go to the next game, are you like the same character or something with the same levels?
No.
So you start at 1 each time, and oh god.
You start at 1 and you go up. That's right.
And now you can go up to 999 million.
Like, max this out, you nerds.
Yeah.
And they will. People who play... Like, I decided... I have 2 different Disgaea 2 save files, where I think I hit level 999... or max level, basically, on both of them. And then I have my Disgaea 1 save file that I did that on. I'm still working on Disgaea 5.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of Disgaea 5, if you're interested in that, Disgaea 5 Complete will have a game trial, which will be free to play for any Nintendo Switch Online subscribers, which came out the day of the Direct, I believe. So that should be live now. And you can try Disgaea 5 Complete just to see if you like it, if you have the Nintendo Switch Online membership.
That's pretty cool. That would be even cooler if I hadn't already bought Disgaea 5 twice.
Right. Next thing was Empire of Sin. Is kind of an interesting looking game, but the trailer was really bad, I feel like, because, like, the music was... I feel like the music in the trailer was, like, written as part of the dialogue in the trailer, which was a weird kind of a way to do it, because it's like, I would get it, because the way that it seemed to be presenting itself is like, ooh, this smoky film noir nightclub kind of, thing, with this jazzy singer in the background, except the jazzy singer obviously had the same voice as the main character, and there would be, like, jazzy voice, and then she would say something in exactly the amount of time before the next stanza of the song, and it was cut really awkwardly, and it was just a really terrible trailer overall.
So were they, like, ducking it, even though it was cut so that she was saying stuff in between, or was it, like, composed, like, well, but it was just had an awkward effect?
I'm not sure. I would guess that it was composed with this idea in mind, just by the way that it was presented, that they composed it specifically for the trailer in order to intersperse her dialogue within it, which is just weird. Didn't come across very well. Basically, the point of the game, though, is that you're some kind of chick who runs a gang that's rival to Al Capone, so it's a vaguely neat premise, although it really showed diddly squat about gameplay, so I have no idea what to feel about this game, but the trailer was bad. Game might be okay. That's
When
basically
will
what I'm
game
saying.
developers learn cinematic trailers aren't acceptable, except in the case of Deadly Premonition, where, come on, everybody's playing for Agent York.
Sniper Elite 4 is coming holiday 2020. I've never played any of the Sniper Elite games. They look kind of generic shootery. The Long Dark is shadow dropped. I forgot what that was. PGA Tour 2K21 is coming to Nintendo Switch later. Hades shadow dropped. This game looked kind of interesting. It looks a little Diablo-ish, but
It's a roguelike.
Yeah, looks kind of cool. There was a trailer for this, I don't know, several months ago. I feel like
Looks kind of like a mix between like Diablo and The Binding of Isaac, of all things.
Yeah. So yeah, that looks kind of neat. And it shadow dropped, so that's available now. Balan Wonderland. Chris, you have any feelings about this?
I don't even know what that is.
Okay. I believe it's from the guys that made Nights into Dreams, is what I heard, but I could be wrong on that. So, and it has a similar weird trippiness to Nights into Dreams, because you use weird costumes with unique abilities to progress through this place. I put it in my notes, you use costumes with unique abilities to progress through an acid trip.
Balan Wonderland.
Yeah. It looks super weird, but maybe kind of interesting. It has a similar vibe to Nights into Dreams, where everything is just a little surreal and what the fuck.
Sounds interesting. I kind of want to look more into it now.
Yeah.
But I am hoping that this game is kind of a better game than Knight's Journey into Dreams, which was the Wii sequel, it was alright. Was not what I would call a great game.
I'm gonna check a message real quick, so my thing is going to go here. Alright, so we are not getting Emmy and Kevin today, and that's okay. So, our buddy Kevin was possibly coming tonight, but he decided not to. And now you can see that on here, and I will tag him on Twitter and embarrass him with this screenshot, and it will be hilarious. Or not, I'm not really sure. Anyways, so, sorry Kevin, we missed you. Anyways, let's get back to... How do I get back to your stream? Oh, shit, what did I do?
Technical difficulties, people. This part
we
will
go.
definitely not be edited out in post, because we're not... What do we look like, fancy people?
I'm a lazy idiot. I'm not gonna... I don't do post-production. I finish my beer while I'm uploading it to Podbean. That's what I do.
The most post-production there is stitching clips together.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Like, if it's... Only if it's absolutely necessary.
Right. Yeah. Alright. Anywho, Rune Factory 5 is coming 2021. Play any of the Rune Factory games?
No, they always looked interesting to me, but they were...
Yeah, I'm not really into that style of game. They don't look bad, and I've never heard, like, terrible things, but it's just not a game not a style of game I care about that much.
Is this the... like, Harvest Moon, or, like, Harvest Moon plus Dungeon, or what?
Yeah, that kind of thing. I've just never really been into that genre, whatever it is you call it.
The farm simulator genre.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
like that
actually
genre.
like that genre too. And have I told the story about how my friend got my wife pregnant?
Not again. No, what happened?
So I was about 10 years of age or so. I was playing Harvest Moon on the Harvest Moon 64, Harvest Moon through the Nintendo 64 there. In case 64 wasn't obvious enough, 64.
It wasn't the version of Harvest Moon 64 that came out for Game Boy Advance.
Did it come out in 64?
It did not come out in 64. I think that was, other things were happening at that time. But I had recently married this girl in game. I finally had successfully done this, and
was she hot?
Yeah, I mean, to my 10-year-old brain, yes.
You're like,
so
it has boobs, whatever. I'll take it.
So my friend, he wanted to borrow this game, and I was like, okay. So I lent it to him for a few months, and then when I got the game back, my wife was pregnant, or she may have already had a baby, I'm not sure. So, I guess don't leave your video game wives unattended with your friends, is all I can say.
And the last piece of news from the Nintendo Direct was Ori and the Will of the Wisps shadow dropped yesterday, and there's a physical special edition also coming. So that's kind of cool. I think the support on Nintendo from Xbox Game Studios is just kind of cool, and I really fucking want Halo. Please, somebody, like, email Phil Spencer and tell him to put Halo on Switch, for fuck's sake.
That's just 2 first names. Never trust a guy who has 2 first names.
We don't trust you, Phil Spencer. You're not Drink to the Past approved, apparently. Sorry.
He's obviously a lizard man who got his translator. A bad translator.
Yeah!
My last name is Thompson, and with my when me and my wife were trying to pick kid names, like, she would always suggest like these like names that were last names, like what about Mackenzie? And I'm like, you can't have 2 last names as your name. Mackenzie Thompson.
What is she, a lizard person?
Right. Which is hilarious because I have a cousin, McKinley Thompson, which is 2 last names, but that works somehow. But maybe she's a lizard.
Mean you're part lizard person?
Hold on, let me email my cousin. Are you a lizard person?
You need to know for a friend.
Right, yeah. All right. And then the next thing is there was also a PlayStation 5 showcase, which actually I forgot to put my full notes in the thing, so I have them on these sticky notes here.
Sticky notes.
Yeah. So this thing fucking started off with a bang. Final Fantasy 16 is coming out as a PlayStation 5 exclusive next year. Holy shit. What? Trailer looks badass as fuck. I want it.
Based on the last 3 Final Fantasies, my hopes aren't too high.
Right?
But we'll see.
I thought the trailer looked a lot more interesting than any of the last several Final Fantasies. I was not a fan of 13. I don't know if I'm a fan of 15 yet. We've been over that.
I don't know if anyone is a fan of 13. At least 15 has people who
I've heard
legitimately like
one
it.
person talk nicely about Final Fantasy 13, and I'm just like, how much crack did you smoke before that? It's so bad. Like, it doesn't even try to be good.
It doesn't even try to be good.
That was the game I got as a senior year graduation present, and it was like, hey bitch, welcome to adulthood. This is how things really are.
Shitty as fuck.
Fortunately, most things have been, better since then. But
nice. Next, there was a trailer for Spider-Man Miles Morales, which looks pretty cool.
Morales.
The gameplay looks similar to the first PS4 Spider-Man. This is also coming to PS4, which is a little bit interesting and has some people like, oh, Sony said they weren't going to do stuff as cross-gen games. They were only going to do it on PS5. And I'm just like, whatever. More people get to play it. Who fucking cares? Right?
Indeed. It is kind of silly to have console exclusives at all. Since they're being paid off by console companies.
Right.
I mean, that's exactly what happens.
Mm.
That's
I understand the
part of-
business sense, so I'm not, like, majorly upset by it or nothing.
But if it's exclusive, A, you're a dick, and B, you're potentially losing out on profit if your game is actually really good.
so most exclusivity contracts are only for a limited period of time.
Mhm.
So they usually are, but they're usually heavily financially incentivized. So they get extra money for going exclusive, and then it's a limited time exclusivity deal. So then they can jump to other consoles and get additional sales that way.
For third-party
like a
developers,
non-compete.
that's kind of how it works. And then for, obviously,
Yeah,
for first-party, it also kind of makes sense, because, like, Nintendo develops a game, and then, you know, people buy a Switch because they want to play Breath of the Wild. It drives console sales as well. So from a first-party
That's accurate.
perspective, it also makes sense for that reason, so...
For your flagship titles, though, like Breath of the Wild, it makes sense.
Yeah. Next trailer was for Hogwarts Legacy, which is a Harry Potter game, which we've briefly touched on why we don't like J.K. Rowling, but
She's a Nazi now, right?
yeah, something like that.
May as well.
She hates bacon. What a bitch. No.
Oh my god!
No, not bacon. I'm not that drunk yet, I swear. I didn't have 96 ounces of Guinness before we fucking started.
It was
We-
just
we
96
probably-
grams of Coke.
We probably don't want to get into it here, but
Right, anyways, the Harry Potter fans are weird about this, because, like, most of them are like, oh my god, it looks so good! Oh, but J.K. Rowling. So it's like, it's a little bit awkward, but generally it
fan
seems
base.
to be relatively well received.
the only thing I can enjoy anymore in that world is Wingardium Leviosa. Oh, and Wingardium Leviosa too.
Leviosa.
Ah,
Ronald,
Accio.
stop. I hope we're not copyright striked for that. Next piece of
why,
news.
Oni?
I hope they even notice.
Only if you copyright strike us because you're listening to this for some reason. Like, what? Why?
Wouldn't it be
Fuck- also,
flattering to
fuck
get
you.
a DMCA request? I think it would.
DMCA stands for Devil May Cry Association.
Sure, why not?
I'm good with that.
Call of Duty
don't
Black
know what it
Ops Cold
stands
War
for.
is coming to PS5. That's no big surprise. Call of Duty comes out all the fucking time. Looks okay. There will be a free alpha test of Black Ops Cold War for PS4, which is starting the 18th through the 20th. So that's today through Sunday, basically. So if you log on PS4 right now, you can try Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War for free. Resident Evil 8 got a new trailer coming out 2021. Still looks kind of cool. I've still never played a Resident Evil game, but it looks neat. Deathloop got a new trailer coming out Q2 2021. That still looks kind of interesting, but I'm not... It went a little more in-depth on what exactly is going on in Deathloop. So basically, you're supposed to kill 8 targets in a single day, but if you die or if you don't kill all of them in the time allotted, then you have to start over. And it's got a little bit of detective work kind of meshed into the gameplay. So, like, all of these people are at totally different points in the city, and you have to somehow make a way to make enough of them together in the same place that you can kill multiple at a time, and stuff like that.
So it's Groundhog Day, the assassination.
That is exactly what it is.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it's a kind of a new... It's an interesting idea for an assassination game, and you kind of have to look through, like, because, like, the example it gave is, like, okay, this guy is invited to a party for another guy you're gonna kill, but he blows it off because he wins some award or something, so you have to kill the guy that tells him he gets the award or some bullshit like that in order for him to go to the party or something. So it's like got a lot of these interconnecting things. Sounds kind of interesting. Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition is coming to PS5. There was a new Oddworld Soulstorm trailer. My wife is super excited. I can't talk, apparently. We have to drink. My wife really loves the Oddworld games. We just got the Switch version of Munch's Odyssey. So
Abe's Odyssey, also Abe's Iliad, and Abe's Labors of Hercules. I'm just making shit up now.
Quest for the Golden Fleece.
Abe's Quest for...
Yeah, I still have no idea what to make of it. It's like, the graphics look really good. There's some kind of new Five Nights at Freddy's thing coming out. Demon's Souls got a new trailer. So it's a remake of the original one, and it looks fucking good. It looks like, if there's a game that looks next gen, it's this one. Fortnite is coming at launch. Whatever. Fortnite's on fucking everything. Who cares? And there is a PlayStation Plus collection coming. So that's the part I did put in my notes. So if you are subscribed to PlayStation Plus, when PS5 comes out, PlayStation Plus will include God of War, Bloodborne, Monster Hunter World, Final Fantasy 15, Fallout 4, Mortal Kombat 10, Uncharted 4, Ratchet & Clank for PS4, Days Gone, Until Dawn, Detroit Become Human, Battlefield 1, Infamous Second Son, Batman, Arkham Knight, The Last Guardian, The Last of Us Remastered, Persona 5, and Resident Evil 7, all included in the subscription right the fuck when you get your PS5. That's kind of neat. I feel like total package, you're still not looking at as good of a deal as Xbox Game Pass, but there's a lot on here that you can't get on Xbox Game Pass. So it's a little bit of a toss-up. Obviously, God of War is a really good one, and The Last of Us are both big PS4 titles. So, like, just for those, and Persona 5, I feel like it's probably a pretty good deal. And then the rest of this is all like, okay, sure, that's pretty cool. What do you guys think of getting all this extra shit if you're subscribed to PS4 or PlayStation Plus? I'm gonna drink again.
I'll drink to that.
I'll drink to you drinking to that.
Drinks.
I'm almost out of beer. I need another beer soon.
I mean, I guess that's cool for the people subscribed to that. It's I don't know. I always feel weird about those package deals. It's like buying cable.
So this isn't gonna convince you to buy a PS4 or a PS5 or nothing, to buy a PS5, subscribe, and get like 20 games that are... I mean, those are all pretty like high quality fucking games.
Yeah.
Plus
like,
whatever else happens to be on...
my buying process is, and pretty much always has been, I want this one game. For Switch, it was Breath of the Wild. And
Same.
I pick up the system for that. And then I'm like, there's other good stuff on there, too. Like, I would now get the Deadly Premonition remake. And maybe Deadly Premonition 2 if they ever fix the glaring technical issues. But I didn't set out to get those. I can just get them now because I have the system for the one game I got it for.
Right. And the last piece of news and booze is the last piece from this PlayStation showcase is the PlayStation 5 will be releasing November 12th. The standard PlayStation 5 will be releasing at $499.99, and it will be $399.99 for the digital edition, which, as far as I can tell, is literally just the same thing without a disc drive. And I'm like, does it cost $100 to put in a disc drive?
Hope you got internet.
Yeah. Which, I don't know. I'm like, I understand kind of the appeal of a digital-only device, and for the $100 off, it's not a bad deal, but I'm just like, physical collection for life. So, you guys getting a PS5?
Not at all, honestly.
I'll have to wait and see if there's one game where I'm like, yes, I need to get it for this game.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I feel like I just really want a next-gen console day one, so I want to get it. I guess the last kind of post NooznBooz we could put in is there's a little bit of a debacle with the pre-order thing with the PS5, because after this showcase yesterday, they were like, okay, so, or yesterday or 2 days ago, they were like, okay, so pre-orders are going to go up for this tomorrow, and then all around the entire United States, every retailer put it up that day. So I went into GameStop the day after when they said it was going to be there. They were like, it's happening tomorrow. I'm like, okay, I'll wait till tomorrow. I went into GameStop the day after, and they're like, oh, no, they started it early. Blindsided all of the employees. Nobody knew that the PS5 was pre-orderable until somebody came in and they, like, looked it up, and all of the PS5 pre-orders are gone, like, everywhere, in physical stores and in online retailers. Before PlayStation actually said they were going to be live, they were live, and by the time that it was supposed to be live, they were all fucking sold out.
That is some serious mismanagement.
Yeah, and I'm like, I wonder how much of that was on the retailers and how much of it was on Sony, because I feel like maybe there was some amount of both, but it's really kind of hard to tell from my perspective, like, you know, who's more in the wrong, or was it all just the retailers all made terrible decisions, or what?
Yeah.
It's weird. And with that, I shall get more beer. And poof, I'm back with a magical milk stout, which is one of Chris's go-tos here. From
Wow,
Left Hand.
incredible.
Yeah. Never
It was
saw that
almost like you teleported and grabbed that beer in front of my very eyes.
That's exactly what I did. You didn't see
How did
me
he
pause
do
the
that?
video recording and walk over there and pee.
Yeah, Nick and I didn't talk about, like, Rick and Morty for, like, a good 30 seconds there at all.
Nice. Chris, do you usually get this in bottles or cans?
I usually get bottles, but,
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the can.
I've been digging the can because they put the rocket widgets in there, like Guinness. So it gives that burst of nitro right away, and then you pour it and just let it settle and such. But I had some bottles the other day, so now I'm gonna compare it directly. Because I had some bottles that I got like a 6-pack the other day, because I was like, I need beer, and I got a 6-pack of Milk Stout Nitro, because it's pretty good. So now I'm going to have a more direct comparison. Is it better in bottles or cans? I don't know. Because, like, with the bottles, I feel like it's a little bit less interesting than, like, a Nitro Stout on tap. Not to say that it's bad or anything. And it's certainly better if you open the bottle and put it in a glass than it is just out of the bottle, because it kind of re-nitrogenates it if you pour it real hard and and let it settle. I'm not totally sure how that works, but it's totally a thing, and it's way better in a glass. Anyways, so
See,
we'll see if
set you up for the pun. I'm a hard poor man. Goddamn. Stammering. You gotta not do it when you deliver or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Kind of like babies. When you deliver babies, you shouldn't stammer. Is that how that works?
So you'll never get it out.
All right, shall we move on to our table topic?
Yes.
Table
Please
topic
rescue me
for
from this
today.
hell I've created for myself.
Table topic for today: how often should the GM let players take back decisions? And after that, we'll get into how many second chances should players get, because I feel like those are a little bit related, but not quite the same thing. So first, let's kind of tackle that. How often should the GM let players take back decisions? Do you think there's an appropriate time and an inappropriate time?
Yes.
Yes. And Nick, why don't you go first? I know what I'm going to say. And
Okay.
I want to see if I'm going to step on your toes here.
The articulation is in process. Bear with me here. So if you have a player who does a thing, and blah, 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 something happens, they're like, I want to take that back. You only really want to do that if the thing they did was not working the way intended because of an abstract ruling that they weren't aware of. For example, if they cast a spell and it does a thing and it doesn't work the way they thought it was going to work, it did something different. They're like, wait, but it was supposed to do this. And you're like, no, it doesn't do that. The spell doesn't work that way. You can point to it and you're like, see, it doesn't do that. If you think about it, blah, blah, blah. And then in those situations, I either A, let them take it back, or B, say, okay, it works the way you intend, but it's not going to work again.
Right, I can kind of see that, especially with new players when they're just like kind of getting used to the system, even, or spellcasting in general, or various effects like that. And even as a veteran player, I've had occasional things like that where I'm like new to a system and I don't quite understand how it works, or stuff like that, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna do X thing, and then GM is like, okay, X result happens, and I'm like, wait, was it common knowledge that X result is a thing? You know, would I have known that was a potential outcome? Because if I knew that was a potential outcome, I'd be weighing the risk and reward, you know, depending on what it was. Like,
right, which is why, as a DM, I would encourage players to inform me ahead of time if they're going to try something that they think might not work. It kind of ruins the surprise aspect of whatever that thing is, but you can kind of give them the heads up so they can be like, oh, it's totally not going to work like that, and your character would know this, and here's why. Or they can say, all right, sounds good.
Oh, what the hell?
I don't know.
Sorry, I'm reacting to something.
Or they can say that.
It's a gelatinous cube. I didn't know there was gelatinous cubes in Minecraft.
Yes, they can be quite annoying, in fact.
I was not expecting to see one in
Fast
the middle
forward
of
to
my
1
farm.
hour, 7 minutes, and 10 seconds, and you will see Chris fighting a gelatinous cube. Check us out on YouTube for gameplay of Minecraft and stuff. Hashtag shameless plug.
Middle of the podcast.
Welcome to the night. Anywho, back to the actual table topic.
Right. Yeah, so... Yeah, I think in general, like, when I let players take back decisions, it's because they didn't really understand the ramifications of what they were doing, or for some reason, like, the potential consequences were not clear to them, which can happen with anybody, depending on the tabletop, the situation, various things like that all kind of go into it.
Right. And of course, limitations to that are situations where it's a surprise, the effect. You're like, I'm going to cast a spell on the thing to turn it into a bird, and then it just turns into a dragon. You're like, what? Obviously, that's a surprise instance.
Right, yeah.
Of course, there's potential for abuse in that, but that's some really meta shit at that point. So it's not even worth thinking about. It's just, does your player suck? Check yes or no.
Don't play with players that suck.
I say that knowing full well I'm probably the suckiest player in my group in that regard.
And yet, I've played with worse.
That's why we still play together.
Significantly worse.
Yeah.
This beer is a little different out of the can. It's a little more... I feel a little thicker on the mouthfeel, and a little more kind of coffee and chocolatiness kind of come out of the can as opposed to the bottle. That's quite good. I like that in general, but actually I feel like this is better than most of the times I've had it. Even on tap, which is strange. I wouldn't expect it to be better out of a can than on tap. Although, maybe they don't have the right nitro ratio or something. So.
So we're
Very good.
actually all in agreement on this particular topic, and there's no further discussion to be had.
Yeah, I didn't even get to say my thing because you guys said my thing for me. Make the consequences clear to the players.
Right. Yeah.
This is why I go so much into. Recently, I've been so hard on making consequences clear to players.
Chris said hard on.
I did say hard on.
I'll drink to that.
Hard on is another word for boner.
Yes, we're aware, Sean.
You're aware, Sean?
Answers
You
the
turn
best
into me
ED
under the
doctors
full
in the
moon?
world.
What?
What?
I've totally lost track of what I was going to say.
So is
I
there
was
ever
gonna
a time when a player has asked you to take back a decision and you just didn't think it was justified and you wouldn't let him? Or is there a situation that could potentially happen there that would happen?
I don't think I've ever had a player ask to take back a decision because they... and I was like, no, you are wrong to take back that decision.
Mm-hmm.
You want to... but there are plenty of... I feel like I almost have an opposite problem where sometimes I'll say something in the moment and I'll be like, all right, here's an unexpected consequence of what happens, and then I was like, in retrospect, it should have been obvious that this was going to happen, but the player didn't complain or anything, so I guess we're golden? I don't know.
Right.
A lot of stuff obvious on the DM's side, though. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
why did they do that?
yeah.
Players are stupid. They are apparently stupid. I addendum.
Players do not have access to the DM's actually knowing perception of the world.
Yeah. The DM's worldview is the world.
Yeah. It's time for me to breed some sheep.
So what do you think about DMs that don't necessarily, like, let a player take back a decision, but, like, a player makes a decision that's probably bad, and they say, are you sure that's what you want to do? Something like that. Like, what do you think about DMs kind of steering the decision towards non-stupidity? Or
Well, I actually don't...
away from unintended
towards
consequences.
I just I don't try to steer them away from things. I make sure they're aware of what they're doing, if it wasn't obvious, because sometimes I'm like, that is profoundly stupid. I'm probably failed in my description. But beyond that concept, I'm not going to hold your hand. And so I guess I get into, when do you no longer let someone take something back? And I think that's when it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Something happened too long ago, or it's something they've seen before and they should have known better as a player, and those end up being the things that they can't take back. Oh, you're all drunk and tired because you've been playing too long? Yes, the giant rug mimic eats the party. Deal with it.
Why are you saying you drink when you play D&D?
Yeah.
Mm.
Unless I'm on a character I really care about.
I never drink when I'm playing D&D.
I don't think you ever
except
drink
when
while
I'm
playing Godric.
D&D.
I did not drink while playing Godric. Even
I
if someone
feel like
teleported
that's a
me.
compliment in some ways.
It is! I was both terrified and attached to a character.
Let me see. He's holding up the drink side, but it's upside down, so I guess that means I gotta drink twice? I don't know.
Drink as much as you damn well please. I'm gonna give this
Wait,
beer a 15. This is surprisingly good.
I've gone on a rant on this very topic before,
Mm-hmm.
but the "are you sure" is unclear communication that you should not do if you're running a game.
Mm-hmm.
What you should do instead is, if the player is making a decision that seems like obviously stupid, you should be like, okay, why are you making this decision? You should try and get at their decision-making process. And if they say,
Right.
they might have a justification for it. They might be like, oh, I think that, I know this seems stupid, but here's what I think is going to happen. You can be like, oh, okay. And you might...
But at that point, as GM, you might be like, well, your character would know that won't work because blank, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
at that point, that's a theoretical possibility
Or-
as well.
and then sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, I'm making this because obvious thing that everybody else seems to know, but this guy hasn't picked up on yet." You re-describe the situation. You say, "And also, there's this thing in there that makes that a bad idea."
And then player says, "Oh shit! I'm sorry. If I had seen that, I totally would have done that."
Yeah,
Been there.
I am not perfect at this. I am far from perfect at this. There was once a time when an encounter started because everybody thought there were 27 fewer skeletons than there were. Sans Josh.
I was there for that.
But
he said there's 3.
No, I said 30
around the throne room.
Everyone heard 3 except for me and Josh.
3. The rest of us heard 3. Fucking Coloradans. Their lack of T's.
30.
And then, like, 5 rounds later or something, like, we get involved with the thing, and then Chris is like, "Alright, the 30 skeletons stand up." We're like, "What the fuck? There's 30 skeletons?" He's like, "Yeah, I said." I'm like, "No, you said there's 3.
So
it's too late to take it back, though.
You guys knew something was up. It would have been if I had been like, "Oh yeah, like 27 ghosts come out of like the walls." It would have been
dicks.
Yeah.
But at the time, it's like 3 skeletons. Okay, they must be badasses. This was the framing, anyways. 30,
yeah.
They're 30 mix. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It worked out.
So. Yeah, I wanna hammer this point in home for anyone who listens to this and anyone who listens to me, even mildly. Be clear in your communication. Ask questions to understand what your player's perspective is, and don't just hint at things by saying, "Are you sure?" because that's not useful.
They'll just say yes once they get used to it.
Are you sure you want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, not now. Not that you said it like that.
Right?
That's
a kind of a fun thing, though, because depending on the DM, sometimes I've felt like that's a hint to, like, that's a dumb idea, and sometimes I've felt like they're just a little bit, you know, kind of giving you a mindfuck, like, you sure when you want to do that? So you think, oh, this is a bad idea, or are they just screwing with me? Yeah, do I want to do that? Now I need to, you know, really consider the ramifications myself.
Yeah.
So sometimes I feel like conditionally it works depending on your individual DM style, but in general I would avoid it because in general I feel like you guys are right. It's just like saying, are you sure you want to do that is shorthand for saying, don't fucking do that.
But other times you can just say, yes, I am damn sure.
Would you say to your player who is saying, I want to do this, would you say to them, no, that's a stupid decision. Don't do that. Would you say that?
I think once or twice I've said that's literally pointless. The guy has 1 hit point left, or, you know, some bullshit like that, depending on the situation. I feel like I had something like that.
But then you're clearly saying why that's dumb. Or you're clearly saying, yeah, this guy's on his last leg. You like, probably should.
Yeah, sure, you can use your last 9th level spell, but you could also just kick him in the shins.
Yeah.
Save your spell for the next encounter. I mean, what? There's not a dragon behind that curtain.
Oh, come on.
That's why there's curtains in dungeons to hide all the dragons.
Yeah. You cut down the curtain and the dragon comes out and he starts, like, you know, beating you up and shooting you with his shotgun.
Right? When the dragon comes out, gets all over my pants. Or my pants do there anyway.
So what about the other part of this question, though? How many second chances should players get? Because I feel like that's a little more open-ended, because a second chance can mean kind of a lot of things, depending on the situation.
I would do the good old cop-out answer of,
kind of wish we had Matt on this sometimes, because he's the mean DM. of our little triangle.
Yeah.
Chris is the nice DM.
Did you
Hear
just
that?
dye your sheep green?
Yeah.
Wow.
It grows
What does
back
PETA
green
think
too.
about that?
That's the sort of shit that should keep you up at night. Say.
Yeah, second chances. I mean, what do you mean by second chance? If someone is confused about something, if for everything that they're confused once about, it's completely fine. But if someone gets confused about something over and over and over, I don't know. It's kind of like you play it by ear by player. Some players take longer to learn things than others.
Mm-hmm.
To put that as kindly as humanly possible. Until I said that. But some people do know better.
Well, you would probably be like less patient with, say, me than you would be with some other players.
So if Chris is fucking I don't know though. He wouldn't do that, so it's kind of hard. So if Chris was like, oh, I didn't know that would happen, knowing that I would basically just grandfather in the result, like, okay, you thought it would happen this way. It's a little bit too late. We'll just let it slide. That's theoretically bordering into the meta player is psychologically gaming the DM in order to win.
Which don't do that.
Don't do that. I've done it. I'm a bastard.
You bastard.
How dare you?
But that's actually an interesting point in itself that I thought of this week. It's when you're trying to figure out a tough situation, it's the tough situation versus you. So you have to figure out both the situation as well as the DM's interpretation of how the world works in order to resolve that, which forces you to be psychologically analyzing your DM to interact with situations. That's a whole other topic on. So
You shouldn't have to play a guess what the DM is thinking game to, play the fucking game. How do you make sure?
Yeah, but you have to play a guess what the NPC is thinking game, which is influenced by the DM's worldview.
Yeah, that's kind of a different thing.
Yeah, because to an extent, you gotta kind of play that, but that's also tied into, how the DM works. So if you are close with the DM, the way his DM style works and maybe who he is as a person, you might be able to extrapolate some information there. And even if you can't, that's why RPG systems generally have skill rolls for things that you can't really, always convey. There's usually some kind of way to convey that through the mechanics.
For sure. I think skill system just got a point in the win field.
Yeah,
it's a good point.
For me, I'm still of the opinion that skill systems tend to be for social interaction. They can be player disempowering, but you are right. That is heavily DM dependent, and it depends on clear fucking creepers. It depends on clear communication. On hey, this guy doesn't seem interested in this course of conversation, or this guy's been dragging your attention back to his family lineage a lot, kind of thing. Basically, verbal signposts for things where things like body language and what the NPC seems to be interested in, so players can work on it that way.
Right.
Kind of at more as an mature, gamey, interactive kind of thing. I still prefer the talking it out method over a skill system.
Yeah.
And the only thing I think that the only situation I would not prefer that in is with the GM of who is there to basically be like, oh, you don't know what this guy is thinking. Everything you say and do with him is wrong. You're going about it the wrong way.
Well, I'll never tell someone that, but I'll certainly be thinking it.
Very likely.
It's like the NPCs are pulling a fast one on you sometimes.
So
but
when
if your
Chris,
character has those skills, they can use them to discern reality.
Yeah.
right. When Chris brought up this topic, I kind of got the idea of second chances on a very large scale. Where, like, one of the things that I kind of like to do is, like, it doesn't come up a whole ton, but, like, if somebody loses in battle to a big NPC or a big boss villain or something, then I like to have that mean something in the world. So, like, if you guys fail a dungeon and have to run out of it before the time, or, you know, something like that, do you think you should get a second chance at that dungeon, or would it be more interesting and more appropriate to just, like, okay, the dungeon has failed, and the world changes because of that? Something like that.
I think that second one you've said is better, so long as the change isn't, oh, you failed the dungeon, game over.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
it depends
if
on what the
it's-
dungeon is. Oh,
Yeah, but it can literally be you failed the dungeon, and now the world is ending and you have to flee the planet.
That
But
happened
later
to us.
on, you can drop a quest line saying, hey, you can save the planet you accidentally fucked. Are you in?
mhm.
That also happened to us once.
Yeah, I feel like we played most of a campaign that almost got back to something like that, huh?
So I think second chances, but wrapped up as more interesting things are good. Unless it's like an arena style game where they're like, oh, we failed the thing, let's
Mhm.
try again. You know,
Right.
like if I put a literal arena in my game.
hmm
And then there's the most common kind of second chance, which is just player mortality, lethality,
Yeah.
which is the most obvious form of this, and I think we've talked about it before, so no sense going back into it.
hmm
But
All right. So, anything else on our table topic? Kind of final thoughts, or any more big points we want to get out of the way before we move on?
I don't
Just
have
an
it.
anecdotal personal story that would be 10 seconds long or less.
Okay.
I failed to change a boss's sex/gender. I didn't know that that would happen, but because I failed that, I blew myself up to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
And was still given a second chance because of how the system's made,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Although if I
which I meta took advantage of.
That does have to be, system dependent a little bit, I think.
although
That's
if I
another
had
rabbit hole we could go down.
if I had really been like it, I could have been like, okay, that cool thing you want to do where you sacrifice yourself to do this. That's not gonna you're not gonna get a second chance in this event.
But I knew you wouldn't, because meta psychological analysis is a fucking factor.
mm-hmm.
Now that I said that, he's going to kill me next time.
I think I'm a revenge seeker. I'm gonna seek revenge on you, Nick.
No, I don't think you will.
I'll just have to be a little more cautious this time.
Well, I mean, that particular game is built so that if you roll the same result on dismemberment twice, that's when you die.
Yeah.
And so if I roll that same result, I'm dead.
If you roll that same result, I'm going to laugh and also feel kind of bad.
That's dice.
That's
And poor
gambling.
choices.
Don't lose your other arm.
Trying not to. Alright, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Alright, so the
What?
video game topic for today
Oh,
is how much trial and error makes... trial and error. Learn to talk, noob.
drink.
How much trial and error makes a game fun. Because some games thrive off of being like all trial and error, and you kind of have to just keep on trucking until you kind of understand the system more, or find a new way to approach the puzzle, stuff like that. And some of them are like, here's a tutorial of how to kill this enemy specifically.
I would say there is a certain kind of game where you're like, oh, you need to just do things trial and error, constantly over and over before you even make a little bit of progress, and I get bored with those really fast.
Yeah.
It's not even like that they're hard, because difficulty's fine. It's that I'm making zero progress, and I've been at this for like several hours.
Well, I would describe Spelunky as being that, and that game's a lot of fun.
I feel like you can see yourself making progress, like marginal progress with Spelunky. You're like, oh, I
you
made
gain
it.
knowledge.
You're like, oh, I make it to the jungles more often. Oh, I know how to deal with this thing now. Oh, I should stop trying to rob shopkeepers because they always kill me.
You say that.
Yeah, well, knowing and doing are different things.
So maybe that's a good example of when trial and error is successful?
Yeah, I think Spelunky has a very finely tuned trial and error curve. In that,
So what would be an example of a bad trial and error curve?
I would say a really old school roguelike, like NetHack, which the people who play NetHack swear by it. The people who play it regularly. But that is a game that has so much of a learning curve and so many like things you can do wrong. Just instant death, like you didn't even know what happened because you weren't familiar with it. And it takes long enough to get to those points that it kind of is unfun to slog back through for the first few times. Once you have the game knowledge, I think things are supposed to change. But getting the game knowledge without referring to, say, a wiki is just a painful experience. And a lot of your first experiences with those things you're not familiar with is dying to them. And starting all the way over from the beginning.
So when you die and you say, I don't even know what I did wrong.
Yeah. When you die and you say, I didn't know what I did wrong. Or when you die and you say, what the hell? That's how that works? Like,
so then we can look at Spelunky and say, I mean, you die like instantly, right? But it's not a slog to get back. It's like 10 minutes of fun platforming.
Yeah, I feel like a full game of Spelunky might take like an hour to get through, start to finish.
You mean 10 minutes? Just kidding.
Yeah, if we're all speed running or something. So Spelunky is not a slog to get through, and Spelunky, frustrating as it is, you do get better at the game and you understand why you died.
Yeah, some games I feel like are like that a little bit. Especially one of the things when we were talking about this topic, I thought of Dark Souls right away in that kind of game, where like 90% of the gameplay trope is just based on trial and error. It's like, you know, you try, you die, you get better, you try again. It's more or less the gameplay cycle of Souls-like games. So, but at what point does that just become tedious? I don't know, because I've never really got into a Souls game.
So the
because I felt like it got tedious pretty quickly in Dark Souls 3, but at the same time I wasn't really into the combat, so maybe if I gave it a little more time I'd get more into the combat or something like that. So
the only time I actually remember those games getting tedious on me and felt punishing for doing trial and error, the first time I played to the end boss, and the walk to the end boss is like 5 minutes long when you have to respawn, but I just didn't have the right gear or skill or whatever. But it felt like every time I played against him, he'd kill me, and I didn't really understand why. So I just kept walking back over and over. Even like 20 attempts, right, is about when you're starting to grasp it. But with that 5-minute walk, what's 20 times 5? That's 100 minutes I've spent just walking, just to try my skills on this boss. And that walk is what killed it for me. I never even completed it on that playthrough.
And that's a very important point, I think, is that when you fail something, getting back to the point, and this is the point you were probably just making, getting back to that point where you failed so you can try again, try something new, is critical. It's the same reason why in a game where you expected to die a lot, long death screens are killer.
Yeah. Imagine Super Meat Boy, but every death screen just said you died for 5 seconds. Be a completely different experience.
That was another thing that turned me off a little bit from Dark Souls 3, is I kind of got into it, and, I think I'm doing okay, and then I die again, and I'm like, okay, well, that's okay, I can spring back, but it just comes up with the, you died, and then, you respawn, and you have to go find your shit, and it's like, all that, and it's like, then you play games like Celeste, where it's like, you die, and then it doesn't even load. It just puts you back on the fucking ledge so you can try and again, and you'll probably die again. Lots and lots and lots.
Yeah. Celeste is definitely a game
how they do.
made of.
Yeah, it's weird how they do the same thing as Dark Souls, but in a totally different way, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think Dark Souls also benefits from... I wouldn't call it just a pure trial and error game, because there is, I assume there's still like the gearing up aspect in 3, and you can theoretically grind. There's other options for getting through things if you don't have, quote, sufficient skill to handle the challenge. So, but yeah, still an issue where you face it, even if the designers intended it or not.
Alright, so, just in general, do you guys like a lot of trial and error, or do you like just enough tutorial to kind of get you on your way? Which would you prefer?
Noita is a game with a ton of trial and error in it. I'd say a lot of fun. The game, that trial and error portion of the game really feels like you're a scientist who is slowly unraveling the rules that the world works on. And I think that's an engaging experience. Granted, you die every time, and it takes a while to get, quote-unquote, get back or whatever, but every playthrough is a little different. So it's like you have new experiments to try out.
There is enough interesting variation in Noita to keep you entertained for a long time. It also helps that whenever you get something really powerful, you have a very good chance of dying to that same thing that would be such a boon to you. You're like, ooh, lightning blast, and then you blast it and it bounces off a wall and kills you instantly.
Yep. I can kill anything, including myself. Clip a corner, boom, it's all over.
There's a reason that getting Noita is a verb.
So is that the right amount of trial and error, or the wrong amount?
Yes.
Right amount, because it's interesting every time. That was the conclusion. Recap.
All right.
Sufficient information.
Anything else to go over on that video game topic there?
Tacos are delicious. I'm going to have some, like, on Sunday.
Get some for me, too, would you?
I only have 3 shells.
Poop.
Oh.
So, sorry. Bring shells, I'll build your tacos.
2 for me, 1 for you.
No.
All right, well then, I guess that brings us to the end of the podcast since we ran out of topic. As always, my name is Sean Michael Patrick Thompson. You can find me on 2guysplayingzelda.com as well as on everywhere where the podcast is, which is YouTube, Podbean, and Apple Podcasts. So come check out A Drink to the Past, drink along with us in the YouTube version. I'll give you visual cues, and you'll also get some hilarious gameplay of Chris doing whatever it is he's doing that week, or sometimes I'll play some games. I thought about playing a game tonight, but then I came right from a gig and I didn't have time to set up all my stuff, so I was like, yeah, whatever, I'm just going to drink a beer instead.
Sadness.
And of course, as always, I got my co-host here.
Hi, I'm Chris. Nihilistic Arby's is a Twitter account on it. You can find my writings on DriveThruRPG. I have written House of Flowers, which is an adventure. You can pick that up for pay what you want. Don't feel obligated to give me money, but if you enjoy it, I would appreciate a few dollars. I also co-wrote with Nick here 5 Cataclysms Core Rules Beta Edition, which is another system, RPG system, you can pick up for whatever price you like. So,
It's a work in progress.
Nick's also got good adventures that you should check out.
Also.
All right.
Now you better chill yourself.
Hi, I'm Nick. Hopefully soon I'm going to be releasing a pack of Hexploration. That's Hex and Exploration. You can explore hexes, but it's going to be designed for high-level content and players only, and more geared to my world, which means it's going to be cheap and completely unrelated to your world, but it might give you some awesome, great ideas for your own stuff. I guess I'm shilling this to Sean.
I might check it out. At the
Yeah,
very
super
least,
high
I'll
level,
drink this beer.
very dangerous, very goofy, very loose and fast.
All right. And with that, I guess we get to the end of the podcast.
That's all under 5 Cataclysms. It's 5 Cataclysms at DriveThruRPG. That's me and Chris's stuff.
Check out 5
It's only on
Cataclysms. They're
DriveThruRPG
cool.
because Chris won't put it other places.
I'm gonna put it on itch.io. It'll soon to be coming to itch.io when I have time, which is probably next week.
You have time. How do you choose to spend it?
I'll make a physical edition where I just literally like copy everything in shorthand, like with a pen, and then
That would take you so long.
Take you a while.
Are you a monk?
and then I'll sign it like with a name that's not related to either of the guys who actually made it.
Go for it. Ow. It's like if you do that, you've earned it, man.
So if you're interested in that, then GM me and we'll figure out the price. Apparently.
Hi, I want a handwritten copy of this module. What's your rate? Never gotten that asked before.
Yeah, usually people just pirate it.
Right.
The Trove has all of my stuff for free. Check it out.
So now we get to that part of the podcast where we just talk about inane bullshit until one of us says something hilarious, or inappropriate, or awkward, and then I'll cut off the podcast, and everybody listening will be just like,
Chris is building stuff
Where
in
was that
Minecraft that's going to be in my D&D game, which I finally get to host again this Sunday.
Yeah,
Nice.
this is a... Do you like this giant structure?
Oh, let's see here.
it is a neat giant structure.
Well, you're not even showing the good parts.
You mean like
There we
the lakeside here?
Yeah, that's it. So you need to go up a little so that there's like more of an isotropic perspective.
Isometric?
Isometric. Show the matriculations. Does it have matriculations yet?
It does have matriculations. It's always had... Yeah, I've had matriculations for so long.
Well,
Look at
those
these fucking
matriculations don't-
matriculations.
Are you matriculating people again?
Yeah.
Maybe someday. I'm just debating now whether or not to do damage to the structures if it happens in the game.
Drink a
If you
beer?
do, I just have to go out and fly around and go...
Is that a warp pipe? If you go in there, will it take you to the underground?
Oh yeah, and there's like...
Why do you need to warp? Oh no, I just pissed off all the zombie pigmen. God damn it.
That sounds about right.
Oh yeah, this is his giant cool room. It still has snow on the floor for some reason.
Because I haven't cleaned it all off. Looks like a mess. Did you
Once you
change the...
clean it up. What?
All right.
Okay.
We're not doing anything awkward.
Yeah, that seems to be the issue here, doesn't it? I'm kind
You
of
can't
dozing
force
off slightly.
awkwardness.
Does that help?
Awkwardness has to happen naturally. What?
I'll shove my awkward wherever I want it.